Спасибо большое, что пришли сегодня. Вы знаете, я когда думал об этом годе или году, в общем, в конце 2018 года я думал, что главная задача на этот год была бы привести Девіда в Украину. Я совершенно не знал, как это делать, вот от слов совсем, совсем. И это случилось. Я чуть позже скажу, как это произошло, но вначале я бы хотел рассказать вообще, как вообще все произошло. Если кто-то меня знает давно, а может и нет, меня зовут Вячеслав Сухомлинов, и я глава Девід Аллен Company в Украине. И 10 лет назад я был в феврале, я только познакомился со своей женой, мы еще не были женаты. И я тогда еще катался на сноуборде, и мы часто ездили в горы. И меня мои друзья напоследок пригласили, когда я женился, я перестал кататься на сноуборде. Друзья пригласили меня на сноуборд-трип. Мы поехали по 3 странам: Словакия, Болгария, Румыния, в поисках чистого снега. Мы катали фрирайд. У нас даже был когда-то опыт, мы катали хелиски в Карпатах. Кстати, виновник торжества, может, подойдет, Максим Карпий. И вот я после одного из дней, после заездов, мы сидим, как обычно, там пьем пиво, я тогда еще пил пиво. Вот. И у меня только появился MacBook, и я не знал, какое приложение использовать для него. И у меня был товарищ, который сейчас живет в Сан-Франциско, и он на самом деле, он виновник GTD в Украине. Он виновник. Его зовут Алексей, он сейчас вряд ли меня слышит, хотя он знает об этом. Я когда-то писал об этом пост. И он сказал: Слава, у меня вот есть MacBook, я вот программист, и я использую OmniFocus. А кто использует OmniFocus, кстати? Hello. И вот я OmniFocus узнал, и когда впервые установил его на компьютер, первая задача, которая была в OmniFocus, это прочитайте книгу Девіда Аллена «Как привести дела в порядок». Это был 2009 год, февраль месяц, Лена ждала меня дома, и я уже вот это приехал с MacBook'ом и с приложением. Я начал применять эту методологию, и, как вы все, столкнулся с большим провалом. То есть она проста, ее легко понять, ее легко начать применять. Но через какое-то время вам кажется, что время, которое вы инвестируете в работу с ней, по-моему, не самое уместное время для инвестирования. И был еще один момент, Серега, лишнее, и был еще один момент, который для меня был сложным. В 2009 году о методологии GTD в Украине говорил никто. То есть я был один crazy guy, который где-то прочитал книгу, который поверил в методологию, который использует ее и пытается кому-то предложить, и все говорят: чушь, не надо. В 2009 году я еще был руководителем небольшой сети кафе. Сейчас этой сети уже нет, но благодаря методологии я прошел свой карьерный путь и был SEO большого ресторанного холдинга. Но в 2014 году у меня был кризис, наверное, как и у многих из вас. Типа, окей, методология есть, но цели непонятны, что делать. Никто не верит, я один, как идиот, хожу с этой книгой. И я в это время увлекся триатлоном и купил книгу, которая называлась «Железный человек есть в каждом». Если кто-то читал ее, то в конце этой книги автором был какой-то богатый бизнесмен из Америки, и он написал, как он сделал триатлон. Он, наверное, был первый, кто сделал его и написал книгу. После него никто уже не писал. Вот. И книга небольшая, и он ездил в поездки, брал с собой кроссовки, там, покупал себе бассейны, вот эти, вы знаете, в которых в проточной воде течешь на одном месте, типа как беговая дорожка. А я любил читать книжки от корки до корки, ну есть у меня такая вот шиза. И я прочитал книгу, и в конце было благодарности, которые автор выражает другим, потому почему он стал айронменом. И мне что-то было интересно почитать. И я читаю, там пунктов штук 40, у меня книга до сих пор на полке стоит, и где-то пункт 30 какой-то написано «Девід Аллен». И книга «Как привести дела в порядок». Без этого я бы не стал айронменом. Я в этот момент летел в самолете из Москвы в Киев. Я начал заниматься триатлоном, у меня в голове триатлон головного мозга. И полное расстройство с GTD, потому что как бы вроде пользуюсь, но вроде как бы и не работает, и никто не верит. Но когда я прочел это в книге, я подумал: слушай, какому-то чуваку в Америке, который зарабатывает много денег, это помогает, наверное, это может помочь. В этот момент я принял решение все-таки продолжить заниматься методологией, и в 2014 году я был у Девіда в Лондоне на его курсе, который сейчас называется «Курс проекты и приоритеты», который мы привезли в Украину уже, и уже мы провели первый, и планируем второй в январе. Я рекомендую всем побывать. И Сегодня Дэвид даст небольшой топик из этого второго курса. И, собственно, вот после этого полета в самолете, после этого класса в Лондоне, на который я полетел, просто вот так вот купил и поехал, все заработало. На самом деле все было сложно, как я это делал, но методология GTD очень проста. И когда вы ее действительно понимаете, вы можете использовать, она может изменить вашу жизнь. Я допускаю, я не уверен, что ваша жизнь немного изменилась после того, как вы начали это применять. Возможно, у кого-то больше, возможно, у кого-то еще изменится, но это точно то, что изменится. И мы общались с Дэвидом буквально перед началом, и некоторые из ребят говорили, что это действительно помогло мне. И я за это вам очень-очень благодарен. Девід Аллен сегодня автор методологии GTD. Он входит в топ-5 бизнес-тренеров США по версии журнала Forbes. Его книга, которая есть у вас в руках, входит, она была названа номер 1 книгой, бизнес-книгой десятилетия журналом Time. Сегодня он у нас. Прошу приветствовать Дэвида. David, come to the stage, please. Don't be shy. Как мы будем сегодня буквально работать? У Дэвида будет небольшой топик из второго модуля. Marry me. Okay. Из второго модуля, который будет действительно практический. И я вам хотел сказать, как произошел приезд Дэвида в Украину. Это произошло благодаря Natural Planning Model. I tell them about how I take you to Ukraine, invite, and how I bring you to Ukraine. It's thanks to Natural Planning Model. И он расскажет, что это такое, как большой проект реально внедрить, чтобы он произошел. Об этом будет сегодня ее спич. В конце у нас будет возможность задать вопросы. Ну и самое интересное, в конце мы сделаем подписи книг и фотосессию. Я желаю вам получить удовольствие от сегодняшнего вечера. David, this is your stage.
Your clicker. Thank you. Slava, thank you. So interpretation, I assume, is going on, if you need that. I'll try to speak slow because anybody translating from English to another language tends to burn out very fast just because of the English language itself. Delighted to be here. Thank you. And thank you for deciding to participate in this methodology. Just personally, I need to let you know that over the last year or two, my wife and I and our small company have clarified our mission of what we do to create a world where there are no problems, only projects. Think about that. What if there were no problems, only projects and people who owned those to get to some desired outcome of what they were trying to do? So to me, that has both a micro and a macro application. The macro application is to have a world where what's the purpose of doing Brexit or not? What's the purpose of Ukraine's issues with Russia or not? What's the purpose of any of this stuff? What are we trying to accomplish? What is the desired outcome? And then how do we allocate resources or reallocate resources to engage in those appropriately? On the micro level, that means you got a tooth problem. What's your desired outcome? Fix the tooth problem. What's your next action? Call the dentist. Make an appointment. There's no difference. It is the essence of productivity, outcome and action. What are you trying to do? And then how do you allocate your resources, attention, focus, and activities to make sure those things happen? But as you may have uncovered by now in any of your experience with GTD, that simple idea can be somewhat challenging to implement in as complex a life as you all have. Do you know how many projects you all have? In the room, there might be, 40 people here? 50 people? Most of you have between 30 and 100 projects right now. So 50 times 60, there are 3 100,000 projects not getting done right now because you're here. So how comfortable are you about what you're not doing? Okay, so I'm going to try to give you a short sort of, basically it's the TEDx that I did for Amsterdam when I moved to Amsterdam 6 years ago, about a piece that we expand on in level 2 of GTD. I talk about it and describe it in my book, but most people look at my book and go, there's a lot in there. By the way, read my book about 12 times and you'll start to get it. You don't think that's true? I guarantee any of you read my book again, if you've read it at all, you will find it a very different book. Okay, so let me back up and talk about what I uncovered. And by the way, just to let you know, since we're all friends here, I've never had a traditional course in business, time management, or psychology at all. Right? All of my learning is what we call street smarts in real life. How do I manage that? How do I work that? What do I do with that? Maybe that's why I came up with something nobody ever came up with, because I didn't have any preconceptions about what it is you were supposed to do. You can't manage time anyway. Any of you ever mismanaged 5 minutes and come up with 6 or 4.5? You don't manage time. What do you manage? You manage your focus, your attention, and your activity during the time you have. So whenever you say time management is needed, what you're saying is focus or attention or activity choicing is what's needed, so that you feel comfortable about what you're doing. So in the beginning of my, basically consulting business, after 35 jobs, consultant's the only thing left as a job. One of the things I realized was there's a lot about planning. Obviously, you need to plan projects. How do you plan projects? And I kept looking around. Are there any good models about project planning? Have any of you ever needed to plan a project at all? What are the kinds of projects that you might need to plan? Any of you ever need to plan a presentation? Or a conference? A speech? A party? A vacation? A celebration? Anything? How many of you have ever had to plan anything? Come on, raise your hand. Okay, did you do it optimally? Was it most optimally planned for you as you could do that? And I kept looking around and I said, well, wait a minute. And I kept looking at the companies that I was being invited to come do training in, and I said, so where's your project planning training? And they go, we don't have one. They didn't. Nobody seemed to have figured out what's the project planning model. And you look around and you go, well, geez, there are certainly a lot of attempts at project planning, but most project plannings that I saw were either too complex for what you needed or not complex enough for what you needed. And I said, well, wait a minute. By the way, one of the reasons I came up with the whole GTD model is I'm the laziest guy you have ever met. I will stand toe-to-toe against any of you right now to say, okay, let's see who's the laziest. Right? I wake up in the morning and go, how much easier can I get out the door? People say, are you naturally organized? I go, no, ask my wife. I am naturally lazy. I hate being inefficient and having to redo anything or spend any time doing something I don't need to do. So I'm not naturally organized, believe me. I make a mess as much as anybody. So I looked at all these models and I said, well, wait a minute. There's got to be some universal model that works about how do you take something and plan it. So I thought. I don't know if it took me days, hours, or weeks to figure this out. And one day I had one of these great epiphanies, ahas. Oh, wait a minute. We're planning all the time. And by the way, if you want to find out how to best plan, what's your best plan to find that out? How about this? Find the best planner you can find and copy what they do. Right? Isn't that the best way to find how to run, how to play the flute, how to cook spaghetti? Find the best at it and see how do they do it. How many of you know great planners out there? And even know anybody that you'd say, God, I would have them plan everything or anything I'm doing. I found the best planner. Best planner in the universe. You know it very well. It's your brain. You're planning all the time. You planned where to sit. You planned what to wear tonight. You planned how to get here tonight. You're planning all the time. Oh my God. You are the best planner in the universe. When did you start to learn how to plan, by the way? When did you start to learn how to plan? Guess at what age? 6 months. As soon as you threw a tantrum, you were planning. I want something, and I think I'm going to try to figure out how to get it. No kidding. No, I've talked to researchers in child psychology about when the planning process and the forebrain actually starts to take place in the brain, where you're doing planning as opposed to just the limbic part of the brain. 6 months. As soon as you have something you want, you can't get, and you figure out there's something I've figured out as a way I might be able to get it, that gets them to show up. Oh, that works. My dog trains me, believe me. Anyway, so that's where you started planning. And you actually use a planning model that works all the time. It's how you got dressed. It's how you got here today. It's what you're doing all the time. And I went, oh my God, we're all using this same process to figure out how to plan, right? And it's a natural planning model. It's something that you instinctively do all the time. So all I did was try to reverse engineer or figure out, well, wait a minute, what do we do? What is that planning model? Because again, as lazy as I am, I wanted to find out what's the universal model so I didn't have to change it all the time. And I could find something that works for everybody, like GTD. So I found that out. So let's take some examples. You're walking through the woods and this shows up. Will you plan? You bet. Or this shows up. Dinner tonight. Will you plan? Absolutely. So let's take a look at how you do those, right? And see if there's any similarity in what you do in both experiences. I'll suggest totally equal. Right? Now, a way to test this out and to play with this, so hopefully hope you'll all engage with me. How many of you have something right now that you think it would be useful or fun or interesting to do some more planning about? Anything. Personal, professional, a project, a situation, something coming up, anything. Okay, I'm going to ask you to take that and walk yourself through the same model you use about dealing with the bear or going out to dinner. Okay? Willing to play? And by the way, the more you're willing to actually participate here, the more you may get value out of what I'm going to talk about. It's like GTD. You can understand it cognitively, but until you guys actually dump stuff out of your head and made next action decisions about it, you didn't really realize the value of what would happen if you did that. So same thing here. Okay, so what's the first thing, by the way, that's going to show up in your mind? By the way, if the bear shows up. By the way, what would actually start your planning to begin with? A purpose, right? Bear shows up, what do you think major purpose is going to be? Live, right? Not be eaten in body parts, right? Live, survive, right? Right. So you're going to have a purpose here that will start automatically, naturally, the planning process. You have a purpose. Going out to dinner tonight, what would start your planning? Right. Why are you going out to dinner? Sign a business deal? Romance? Hunger? Fun? There's going to be something that will cause you to start planning. And that's what starts any kind of natural planning is a real purpose. Some sort of desired thing that needs to happen that's not true yet. So I'd like you to pick whatever project that you're picking right now. You might want to title your page or whatever you're taking notes, whatever that project is. And then I'm going to invite you to take 90 seconds, a minute and a half, and say, okay, somebody asks you, why are you doing this? What's the top level reason you're doing this? What is the purpose for this project? And write it down. Go. Stop for just a moment and ask yourself, wait a minute, what's the real purpose I'm doing this? There's probably a deeper why. Ask yourself if there's an answer to that question, and if so, write it down. Okay? Turn around and share what you wrote or thought about with anybody around you, in front of you, behind you, beside you, at least whatever you're willing to share. Go. Okay. Bring that to a close. And then give me your attention back. So that's actually what starts natural planning, is having a reason to plan. There's some reason here, something that some part of you has an urge or intention, essentially, to accomplish or to experience, right? What's the next thing you do? What's the next thing you do once bear there and you say, I need to live, then what? Or, wow, out to dinner. Probably at that point, you're going to do the second level of natural planning, which is decide what would success look like here, specifically, in the world. Right? What would it look, sound, or feel like if I survived? What would it look, sound, or feel like if I had a fabulous dinner, given the reason that I have it? Because that could look very different than somebody who has a similar purpose, because you may have a very different vision about that purpose being fulfilled. Right? So now you're going to do, let's get real concrete, really, in terms of what the world and your experience would look like. Purpose can be somehow blue sky and abstract. But vision starts to be very real. Wait a minute. So vision in terms of bear might be what? Up the tree, safe till it goes away. Or back at home, safe and whatever, alive and well. In terms of dinner, it's like, ooh, business deal signed. Romance moved on to whatever level we want romance to move on to. Or hunger just fulfilled in it, fun and boogieing out in a Mexican restaurant, who knows? But there's going to be some vision of that purpose that you had fulfilled. So take another 2 minutes right now and say, if your project were successfully fulfilled, if the purpose were successfully fulfilled, wildly successfully, how would you describe it? So it could be some bullet points you have. Well, it will look like this. We'll accomplish these kind of things. That will show up, or whatever. It could just be a paragraph, just writing a script about, oh, this is going to look like this. We're going to feel like this. The people are going to be doing this. What would wild success look, sound, or feel like for your project if you're working on one now? Go. I hate to stop those of you on a roll right now, because that could be some of the most creative stuff you could do. But at least for a moment, just take 60 seconds and share something of what you just came up with somebody around you. Sometimes it helps to just share it out loud and express it. Go. What'd you come up with? Okay, take another minute. Make sure everybody gets a chance to share something. Okay. Let me have your attention back. Thanks. What's the next thing you'll do naturally? Once you have a picture or an image of something you'd like to have true that's not true yet, what does your mind automatically and naturally do? I want to be back at the camp safe and alive. Oh my God, but how big is the tree? How hungry is the bear? How fast do they run? I don't know. How are my shoes? Can I get there fast enough? Dinner. Yeah, what's the weather like? What do we need to wear? Do they really want to come? What kind of style? You cannot help it. As soon as you have a vision of something that's not true yet, you start generating potentially relevant ideas. Not the best, not organized, but anything that's potentially relevant toward that outcome. Right? Brainstorm, as we call that. You can't help it. Your mind will start going, well, okay, what are all the things we might need to consider about this? So take 2 minutes right now and jot down. If you like mind mapping, if you know that already, you could do that now, or any kind of just bullet points or just jotting down anything. What are all the potentially relevant things that might be relevant to your project? Little things, big things, doesn't matter. See how many things you can generate in 2 minutes right now of things that may show up you need to handle, deal with, think about, address, or whatever, relative to your project. Go. Okay, stop. Again, I hate stopping any of you, because you might be on a roll here. But assuming that you've developed as many of those ideas as you might find potentially relevant, what's the next thing you will naturally do? You cannot help it with what you just jotted down. You're going to start to challenge your information. What's first? What's biggest? What are the big components here? So you'll start to organize, and organize shows up in either priority, sequence, or components. Well, here are the 3 things we need to handle about dinner. Or, well, the first thing I need to do is figure out whether the bear is hungry and how far they are away. Or whatever it is. So right now you start to challenge and evaluate the potential ideas to find out which ones are relevant in what way, in what form, in what priority, if you will. So if you had to create a quick little action, a quick little organizational plan about your project, that might be, well, here's the 3 things we need to handle. We need to handle the agenda, the people, and the logistics. Or here's the first thing we need to deal with is whether or not they want to do X, Y, and Z, or whatever. But there's either a priority, sequencing, or componenting. It could be all 3, but at least one of those that you could do right now. That if I said, okay, if you had to go present your plan to a board or a committee quickly, what are the bullet points on your PowerPoint right now about your plan? Got 2 minutes. Go. By the way, some of that may be to continue the planning process. It might be more important if you're not sure what this is. So it might be a process component versus a priority component yet. Okay, let's bring that to a close. Now, obviously, that might need a lot more work. Depends on the complexity of the project you're dealing with right now. You know, if this is about going out to dinner, it's like, well, let's look at the weather first, let's check that, then let's see if they want to go, and then let's call the restaurant and see if they can fit us in, et cetera. So it could be as simple as that, or it could be as complex as, yeah, we need to build a building in this whole thing over here, and so we got a whole lot of other stuff we need to assess and look at. But that's the fourth stage of natural planning, is where you start to sort, and this is where you challenge information. Which is better, which is first, which is more major. That's what you were just doing if you were doing this. And then what's the last stage of natural planning? Assuming that you want to get away from the bear or go out to dinner, at this point, what will you do? Now you're going to say, okay, excuse me, what's the very next thing that needs to happen on this? You know, it could be call the restaurant. It could be run. You know, there's some next step that you would come up with. And by the way, sometimes on your projects here, the next step may be to continue the planning process in some way. If you don't feel like this, that you've gotten to some level of closure on this yet already. So take at least 60 seconds now and decide, okay, if you had to decide a very next action on whatever you've been thinking about, what would it be? And write that down. Go. Okay, wrap that up. How many of you found that a productive 8 minutes that you just spent? I had somebody actually say, I just completed a business plan I've been procrastinating about for 6 months in 10 minutes. Well, it's kind of a big duh. Duh. Well, I say duh. What's amazing is how uncommon the natural planning model is when you apply it to more complex other kind of things in other contexts. Strange about how that works. By the way, many times I spent a whole day and a half with an organization and a team to figure this out, their purpose, right? We spent at least a good 2 or 3 hours defining what wild success would look like. Sometimes we spend at least a good hour brainstorming and getting all the different potentially relevant information we need to have. Sometimes you might need to spend 3 days with a team of 7 people to really organize the results of that so that you then make next action decisions on the moving parts. So I don't mean to denigrate this process, that you could do this instantly. But what's fascinating is how many people don't do this in this order, in this way, so that they optimize the energy that they're putting towards something to plan it. So what? If that's the natural model, so what? The natural model is not necessarily the normal model. What is the normal model? Try this. I'm bringing you all together. We're the Project X team. Hi, Project X team. Who's got a good idea here? Who's got a good idea here? Where does that already assume that you are in the natural planning model? Because to know what a good idea is means what? You're evaluating good versus bad, big versus not so big, first versus not first. Where is that in the natural planning model, the challenge aspect? Where do you challenge the information that might be relevant? Right there. You can't know a good idea unless you know why you're doing it, what wild success would look like, and have potentially have integrated any potentially relevant information before you have the foggiest chance to know what the best idea is. And they're asking you to start there. How do you think that feels? Ah! Then what happens? Any of you ever been in meetings where who's got a good idea? Somebody said, oh God. And then what happens is people don't plan. It's unnatural. They don't plan. And what happens when you don't plan? When you don't plan, and I call this genetically modified. This is the unnatural planning model, right? Then what happens is you move into the reactive, because you don't plan, what happens? Oh my God, it falls on your head. Oh my God, the sky is falling, oh my God, we didn't plan. Then what happens? People move into the reactive planning model. What's the reactive planning model? Oh my God, it's falling on our heads. What's the first thing we need to do? Get busy. Work harder. Overtime. Come on, we gotta work, we gotta do more to make this happen. And then you get a lot of overtime work, overworked, stressed out people thrown at this thing, not handling the issue. Oh my God. Wait a minute. We need to get organized. Oh, come on, let's get all these busy, stressed out people and put them in little boxes and label them. And then that doesn't seem to work. A well-organized problem is still a problem. Oh my God, I guess we just need more input. We need more input. We need more creative input. Let's bring everybody together. Okay, come on, folks. Let's have a brainstorming. Okay, what do we need to do about this project? Who's got a good idea? Well, either I got a bunch of jerks that work for me, or I must have used up all of our creative thinking on our last reorganization. Obviously, you can't get blood out of a stone, so I guess we have to get some more creative input. We have to get it from the outside. Time to hire a consultant. That's right. This is now consultant hiring time in the unnatural reactive planning model. Oh my God. And the consultant comes in. If this consultant is worth any of the money you pay him or her, at some point they're going to sniff around and go, well, wait a minute, folks. What are you trying to do anyway? And people go, oh my God. No wonder we pay this consultant so much money. I hope you folks realize it's not a matter of whether you do the natural planner model, but when and at what cost. Because it will ultimately come back to that. Let's blame somebody. Here's who I blame. Mrs. Williams, 4th grade in my school. Because long about 9 years old in the US anyway, about the 4th grade in school, was when we learned to write reports. Did any of you ever learn to write reports in your educational system where you had to write essays or a report or something? Anyway, we did. And in order to write a well-written report, what did we have to write first? An outline. Okay, kids. We're going to teach you now how to write a good report. You start with the title at the top. We had to write a report that night about frogs or something. Okay. Frogs. Oh man, I'm on a roll now. Frogs. Got the title. Roman numeral 1. Okay. That's your major topic. Any of you ever stare at Roman numeral 1 until drops of blood showed up on your forehead? And of course, if you had one, then you had the subtopics of A, but you couldn't have just an A, right? You had to have a B. And under A, you could have one, but you couldn't have just one. You had to have two. You could have three, but not one. You could have a little a, but not just a little a. You also had to have a little b. Right? I looked at that and I went, that looks damn good. If I could write that, if I could start with that, I should be able to write a great report. Thank you, Mrs. Williams, for this key to writing such a great, elegant report. Of course, that night I sat down with my pen or my pencil and Roman numeral 1. Now, I had a standard about making good grades, so I figured out how to make good grades. I had to write good outlines. How did I write a good outline? I wrote the damn report first and went back and said, okay, let me figure out the outline after the fact. Any of you ever do that? Any of you ever cheat on turning in your outline after you just wrote the damn thing? Yeah, I did that. Thank you, Mrs. Williams. They're challenging you to have to evaluate stuff before you even have the appropriate data to evaluate stuff. No wonder things hang up out there. It's crazy in that way. So, so what? The natural way to do it actually is a much more appropriate way to do it. And some of the planning models out there now, whether it's Lean or Scrum or Kanban or any of that, will tend to map themselves more to the natural planning model itself. But just that, I can't tell you how many things that we have used the natural planning model, and I've spent many, many hours over the last 35 years actually using this model from a consulting standpoint with teams and with people and with executives that I sit down and coach that are hung up about some issue or problem or whatever, and I just walk them through this simple model about doing that. So it's naturally done in that way. My wife and I actually used this on our wedding 30 years ago. On a wedding. Think about that. What's the purpose of a wedding? It's a good question to ask and answer. Don't ask yourself, why get married? There is no answer. It's like they were just there. I don't know what I gotta do. But the purpose for the event, that's a good thing to get clear about. So Catherine and I walked ourselves through this matter. What's the purpose of the wedding? And they said, and our purpose was basically, God, it'd be really nice to have one event that got all those people together so we didn't have to string out a whole lot of thank yous and a lot of information, and we could just compact it all into one time. We didn't like to waste time with a bunch of stuff we didn't need to do. That was one purpose. And obviously give people an opportunity to share with us their loving, and there was 2 or 3 things that we made as the purpose. Wild success. We sat down, it will look like this, we're going to feel like this, or whatever. And we also looked at values, because values is also up there with purpose. Guess what one of our key values about a wedding was? As soon as we stopped having fun planning this, let's reconfigure. Any of you ever had those major events that should be one of the coolest things you did in your life, and it turned out to be so tense? Oh my God, you're almost ready to get divorced before you got married. One of our standards was, what's one of the hardest decisions you have to make if you're getting married about the wedding? Who to invite? Where do you draw the line? Especially both Catherine and I both had some fairly big networks. Where do you draw the line? The way we decided to draw the line was anybody whose feelings were hurt, not be invited, were not invited. We only invited people who wouldn't care, would understand if they weren't invited. They loved us so much. Okay, understand they want a small wedding, fine. Anybody who would be pissed off, they were off the list. So that was cool. So we actually walked ourselves through this process, which was actually a very, very important and very valuable process in a very real situation to walk through. And I've walked all kinds of teams and people and executives through this using this model. So that's one of the things that we focus on in level 2 is the natural planning model. Most of you don't remember it. It's in chapter 3 of the book. Right? Because you didn't get that far. No, you're still trying to write stuff down. I understand. It takes a while. It does. That's why we have level 2 and level 3 of GTD. See, I'm not a trainer, folks. I'm too impatient. I don't have the patience to hang out with you guys to teach how to implement this stuff. I figured it out. But over the last 10 or 15 years, we've discovered, we need to help people really figure out how to engage with this a lot more easily. Because that book is like, that's a huge thing to look at. And like, oh my God, if you have not already implemented the natural planning model on a consistent basis, every time you think you need to think through something in a much more consistent and optimal way, then you don't yet have GTD in terms of what it really means, in terms of with the least amount of effort, you're producing the maximum optimal kind of result. This is, by the way, vertical thinking. Horizontal thinking is managing across the 24 hours all the stuff you need to manage in 24 hours. The cat food you need, the stuff you need to talk to your partner about, the stuff you need to buy at the store, the websites you need to serve. That's what levels, the fundamentals is talking about, is basically actions and projects. A little bit about projects, but mostly about the action level in life. So you get that under control. But there's multiple levels to go in terms of how do I apply this at the deeper levels as you unpeel the onion with this stuff. And that next deeper level will be the project level. Vertical thinking means, okay, I got my day-to-day under control. How do I get wedding under control? How do I get the launch of the ad campaign under control? How do I get the hire of the VP of marketing under control? How do I get, I don't know, you name it. What are all the stuff that's got your attention in terms of projects and stuff you need to manage? So this is managing any one particular topic, theme, or initiative down the vertical path so that you feel comfortable about its next actions. Where level 3 goes, by the way, just to give you a hint about that. Do we have level 3? Oh, yeah. Well, that's kind of cool. Oh, you don't have it? Well, level 3 talks about how do you integrate all of this. See, ultimately, what are the 5 stages of getting things under control? Can I hear them? Number 1 is capture. Number 2, clarify. Number 3, organize. Number 4, reflect on all that. Number 5, engage. The action you take at any point in time. From a vertical standpoint, what's the top level of commitment? Purpose. Next level, vision of purpose fulfilled. Next level, goals and objectives to accomplish and finish so that vision happens. Next level, areas of accountability and focus that are managed at some level of standard so that we can make this all work. Next level, projects that need to be done about all of those things. Next level, action. So vertical meets at action, horizontal meets at action. So integrating all of this, so in your life from now on, no matter what happens in your life, you're able to maintain significant control, getting things under control when they spin out of control, and they will. And then making sure you've got the appropriate focus when you lose focus, and you will. I do too. The people who lose focus and control the most are the most productive, aspirational, positively focused people to begin with, because they're throwing themselves out of control and out of focus given their creativity and their aspirations and their productivity. That's why the people most attracted to GTD are the people who need it the least. You folks are already considered the most productive, organized, focused people in your network. Guaranteed. That's why you're here. No, you are. Because you already have set a standard about control and focus. You just know you've thrown yourself out of it or want to get back to a next level or take this to a next level of game. Does this make sense? That's why I used to deliver all of this in 2 days. When I was doing this pretty much by myself and delivering all this information, I would do a whole full 2-day seminar, including pretty much everything you hear and see in the book. And of course, people would go, they'd walk out going, wow, kind of hypnotized and do shit. They wouldn't do anything. They just walk out going, they were just totally overwhelmed with all this. Like, wow, too much. So again, I'm not an instructional designer. We've hired them. I don't know how to make this stick for you or to get it to stick around for you. I figured out what it was, what the game was. So a lot of what we've done now for our global curriculum, building it into level 1 to fundamentals, and then level 2, projects and priorities, level 3 in terms of focus and direction, so that I was able to then put all of that into something that is actually digestible. So you could take this a piece at a time and start to work it, and work it over time. I'm 74. I've been working this for 35 years. So it would be inappropriate to assume you could get what I've gotten in all these years in 2 days or 1 day or even just reading the book. So I've had to back off and relax a little bit and say, okay, guys, come on. This stuff is not hard. As you know, this stuff, come on, I didn't share anything here with you that you couldn't do. You just did it. I just defined what those behaviors were, and then hopefully you now have a model to then plug in these kinds of behaviors so they become more automatic and more natural and more habitual to you when you wind up against surprise, against change. And again, nothing's different except how frequently things are. I've spoken a lot about this, but what's different in the world is this methodology this is old as dirt. This will be true 100 years from now. They're still going to need an end basket when we fly to Jupiter. They're still going to need to figure out next actions. They're still going to need to have, they're still going to need to work through why are we doing this? What's the success? Look, this stuff is universal. It will be true forever. But how we start to manage this and build this into our lives so that you don't have to wait to try to figure out this stuff when the pressure hits you, and the pressure's coming. What's new in the world is what technology is bringing forward. And one of the speakers yesterday in the global forum, talk about this, which is one of the things you cannot stop. The genie out of the bottle is knowledge is just exploding exponentially. So the only thing technology really has changed, frankly, in my experience, the only thing that was really game-changing in technology were word processors and spreadsheets. Those things changed the world. They did. They changed how we thought, they changed how we managed and how we ran things, and all the implications of what those two things were. Since then, not much, except speed, volume, and connectivity. Those things are going up as we're sitting here. It's getting faster. You're getting more volume coming across all the channels that you've allowed, and your connectivity is adding more channels to what you're letting come into your life in terms of opportunities. So your parents only probably had to change their lives and their careers and their recalibrated focus on their world maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times. We're all in this room going to have to change it this year. Trust me. You don't think? Wait. It's coming. So how good are you going to be? See, then they said, okay, God, life has changed. They had to go through whatever they had to go through to kind of get it all back to cruise control again. 2 or 3 times in their lives. You need to be able to do that fast, now. Some of you in this room, things may have shown up in your in basket tonight, in your email, that are going to blow the hell out of what you think the next week is going to look like for you. And some of you would be bored stupid if you didn't have that kind of opportunity and that kind of change and that kind of fun and that kind of interest and that kind of spin going on in your world. And my God, if you know what you're doing, folks, it's a great time to be alive. If you don't, you're toast. So a lot of it's about finding out, are you clear about what you're doing? Do you have clarity? Do you have clear space? Do you have nothing on your mind so you can start to trust the intuitive intelligence of yourself to be able to just manage those things as they show up? Anyway, obviously you punched me. Slava punched me, so I could preach here for about 5 days if you want to. I'm not, so I'll stop now. Was this useful to you folks, at least to get some perspective on this kind of thing anyway? So let me toss it back to you, and we'll spend a few minutes here. Happy to take any questions. anything you want to ask or perspectives you want to share or anything. I'm a pretty open book here if any of you want to ask anything about that or curious about anything about that. And you're fine to ask it in your language if you want, because I can listen to the translator here, who's pretty good.
Okay, thank you, David.
What do I think intuitive intelligence really is? You don't need it, you already have it. You need to access it. One of the reasons for meditation or reflection or any kind of reflective process is so that you quiet this world down so you can listen to more the internal world that's really going on inside of you. You know what to do. There's a still small voice in you that can look at a list of 6 errands and say, those are the 3 I need to do today. It can look at a list of 43 projects and say, that's the one, and I think if we moved on that and made progress, that would make the biggest difference to me. So it's listening to that voice that you can start to trust inside of you. The problem is most people have so much static going on in their life about all this stuff, they can't tell the difference between intuition and indigestion. Does this feeling mean I should do this, or was this too much chili I had for lunch? Most people have a hard time telling the difference because their head has been so clear, so cloudy with all of these things if you haven't been implementing GTD to keep your head clear. So one of the things I've discovered over all these years is I don't have to talk to people too much about what their priorities are. I just happen to have them get their head empty, take a look at what all those commitments are, step back and take a look at their life in terms of its reality right now and their commitments, and every one of them knows a whole lot more then about what to do and what to do for the next 2 or 3 weeks, etc. Just makes you more conscious about it. See, what GTD does is it starts with where you are, not with where you should be. Because if your day-to-day is out of control, if you just try to set some new vision or goal, you're just going to create more guilt and frustration in your life. Now, if where you are is, God, David, I'm really, really, really involved in trying to figure out my life purpose, I go, fabulous. What's your desired result? Be clear about my life purpose. Fabulous. What's your next action? See, so the process can be applied at any level. Most people haven't applied that at the more sophisticated and subtle levels of their life. That's why we're doing level 2 and level 3, so that you get a chance to apply this same methodology, but at more subtle levels. See, when you meditate, if any of you meditate at all, it's not, the universe is always on. It doesn't stop. What you do is you quiet this level of the universe so you can hear another level of the universe. It's still on. So, doing whatever you need to do to be able to quiet this world so you can listen to a more subtle world. And it's already there. You don't need to go create it. You need to listen to it. And maybe do what you need to do to quiet the environment so you can start to pay attention to it. And then pay attention. Come on, I'm 74. I'm still learning to listen to which voice is that. See, all of us have a committee in our head. You got a committee in there, right? Sometimes the people in the committee are throwing plates at each other. I should do that. No, don't do that. Oh my God, I want to do that. Yeah, but don't. If you do that, that's going to, If you could just shut the damn committee up or get it into consensus, you probably wouldn't be in stress. So learning how to understand there's a committee in there, which voice am I paying attention to? Which voice can I shut up and have it, okay, go play with yourself in the corner while I pay attention to the guy who's really got the information, right? People complain about 300 emails a day. Folks, you're having 50,000 thoughts a day. Talk about stress. Just start to listen to your own head. It's so much more overwhelming than anything you could get in terms of WhatsApp or email. Don't complain about that, if you're not managing what's going on in the other dialogues that are going on in your committee. So again, a lot of it's who are you? How well do you know who you are? I think Slavia asked me to introduce myself. I said, I don't know who I am. I'm still working on that. I think I got an email or a letter that was addressed to David Allen. I think that's who I am. But quite frankly, I'm still trying to figure that out. You know, who is this in here? It's like, wow, yeah, that's a big game. Anyway, more than what you may have asked about, but hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, you got it. Thanks. Good question.
Outstanding. Good evening, David.
Hi.
My name is Maria. First of all, I would like to start with the grateful words, because nowadays, in times of guru times, you know, people talk a lot about being aware of what's going on and everything. But this tool, I mean, this GTD tool and all this story is a real help. So you really can sit down and manage of what is going on without escaping to ashram or whatever. Me as a person who's meditating, I've tried to, but then you come back and you need to do something here. You need to understand what to do, and you need to fight and find your time and clarity and space and how to do it, how basically to do it. The inbox is full, and the channels are growing if you want to be successful. But this is so important. And analyzing the situation, I've been thinking, and I want to ask you as a creator of this beautiful thing, is there any probability to put the GTD system in the system of education, that we don't wait until we're 25 or 30 or 40 and then find out that we're deep in shit, excuse me, like losing ourselves, our nervous system and everything, and we give it as earlier as possible, that children just know what is plan, what is inbox, beginning from little tiny things, you know? And is it possible? I mean, what is your outlook? What is your ideas about it?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great point. And that's been on our minds and in our radar for 30 years. But how do we do that? And the answer is yes, but it's slow to get it to that point. We just wrote Getting Things Done for Teenagers. It was just published last summer. The two co-authors have kids they've raised with this methodology. I don't have kids. I just have a puppy. And she doesn't quite get outcome and action yet, you know, but we're working on it. So they have come up with lots of good stories about how to do that. One of my co-authors is a public school teacher in Minnesota in the US who teaches 9, 10, and 11-year-old kids, and they're learning GTD at that level. They get it. That's probably the level to get to. Teenagers don't give a shit. Oh, come on. Get a teenager to buy a book about productivity. I mean, you know, who are you kidding? We actually wrote the Getting Things Done for Teens for caring adults, for teachers, parents, counselors, clergy who deal with teens that want a good model to help work with the kids to teach them in their own languages and through their own models about how to do that. But getting it into the educational system means you got to figure out what's the business about getting it into there. We don't have all the resources to just do this, just go do this. If we could get the Gates Foundation or somebody to give us $6 million or whatever, we might be able to build a program for it. And we've had people for many, many years, educators, counselors, people go, oh my God, I get this. How do we get this into the school system? How do you get anything into your school systems? Beats me. Beats me. There's no good business model enough to be able to build the right formats to be able to make that happen. It's coming. We're building a group, enough people, I think, around the world that are interested in it, that people are coming up with pilot programs to try it out and to see what we could do about it. So it's coming, I get you. And by the way, the 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds, that's the level to get it. Because they go, oh, that's what you do. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the parents I know who got this early just have the kids learn what a box is to put in the middle of their room to go gather at night as fast as they can all the stuff that's not where it belongs and put it in the box. Okay, let's go. We're going to time you. Here we go. Let's go the game. Okay. Oh, that goes in there, and that goes in there, and that goes in. And we say, okay, how fast can you figure out where each one of these things goes? Once you figure it out, they go, oh, okay, let's see. Oh, that goes over here. Oh, that goes over here. So you're teaching capture, clarify, and organize. at age 5, 6, 7, 8. If you know how to do that, if you know what that process is, you can then translate it into their behaviors and their activities, if you will, in that way. So I don't have a good answer for that other than, yes, we think that's true as well. A 9-year-old, a CEO, a chairman of a company still needs to come back after the board meeting and empty their briefcase with the notes they took and the business cards they collected and the receipts from the lunch, right? A 9-year-old still needs to empty their pack at the end of the week and figure out what the teacher gave them that their parent needs to sign. Same process, different content, but it's still exactly the same behavior, right? So, and as soon as a kid is old enough to understand what are we trying to accomplish, how would you like the party to be, and what do you think we need to do next, then in order to make that happen, as soon as they're old enough to have that conversation, they're getting GTD. That's really all it's about. So we're just depending on enough parents or enough caring adults to catch this, to then use their models and their approaches and their languaging and their context to be able to distribute this as much as possible to the kids so they don't have to learn this later on, to your point. I wish the hell I'd have learned this when I was 9 instead of 35. Yeah, no kidding. Thank you. What else?
Hello, David.
Yeah, hi.
My question is following. Do you have a time in your life when you just stop using GTD at all? And
When I did what?
Do you have a time in your life when you stop using GTD at all and then go maybe for 1 week, for 2 weeks, and go back afterwards? Because sometimes we've been...
Stop using GTD. I'm not sure what you mean by GTD. If you're meaning writing things down and looking at everything on my list, I do that.
Yeah, I mean about that.
I do that as often as I can. 80% of my life is not on my list. I just do what I feel like doing. The reason I have the freedom to do that is because of my list. And once a week I look at it and go, that'll wait. I'm just going to go hang out, for now. I'm using GTD all the time, because once you get used to a clear head, it just feels uncomfortable to have anything else pop in there. I don't care where I go, this goes with me. Right? On the beach, anywhere. Why? Some of the coolest things that have shown up in my life showed up in the weirdest places. Right? Now, 90% of these, at the end of the day go, too much wine. What the hell? What is that? Jesus. But I don't lose any good ones. So I'm always capturing. I have been for 35 years. And that's where a lot of the cool stuff in my life started, was there. And somebody asked me, said, well, how much do you work during the day or the week? I think it was in an interview we did today. Whatever. I said, 24/7. I don't stop working. I'm working all the time. Anytime I'm doing anything that I want to have accomplished, I'm working. I never stop working. Work for most people, I guess, has some negative consequence or context. Not for me. Here's what's next. That's why for 35 years there's no big difference between personal and professional. I understand what people mean by that, but just here's what's next. Most people actually get in their zone and feel happier at work than they do in their personal life. Read Csikszentmihalyi's work on flow. That's what he discovered, was most people move into their flow state in work as opposed to personal. Surprise to him. So that's why that led him to the discovery of what are the aspects or the factors that lead you into flow, which is where you're in your zone. Time disappears. You're just on. Right? But for most people, that's an unusual event. For me, that's normal. Nothing on my mind here. Maybe that's obvious. Nothing going on up here, except this. Could it be? Yeah, got some pretty big stuff spinning out there, but I've got all that stuff in placeholders, so I don't have to have any of that disturbing me in terms of whatever I'm doing. So, many times I look at it and go, I'm not going to look at anything for 2 weeks. I'm just going to go play. But I will always have a place to capture what happens, because when I'm playing is when some of the coolest shit shows up out there. So if you want to optimize your experience of your intuitive intelligence, you'd better be available all the time, as far as I'm concerned. You want to optimize it. So when you say stop doing GTD, I say, well, what would that look like? You know, what would stop doing GTD look like? Oh, you want to let your world back up on you? You know, how long do you let your garbage pile up before you have to do something about it? That's why I just, people that go, oh, inbox zero, that's so stupid because that takes so much time, that's a big waste of time. I go, well, what, do you only empty half your garbage? That's what having inbox, still leaving stuff in your inbox is leaving half your garbage there. Why? Oh, this is this really smelly garbage. I'm just going to take that out. Oh, come on. Give me any rationale for keeping anything around in your life unprocessed, unclarified, unorganized. Give me any rationale. Nobody's ever been able to do it. So, yeah. And, you know, I'm not looking at my list all the time. I haven't looked at them today at all. Been too busy. This guy is a slave driver. He's just got me, go here, David, do this, go here, do this. I just made sure that last night, while I was having some more wine, I looked at all of it and go, okay, that's all I'm going to do tomorrow. So I don't have any intention on that. Emergency scanning, yeah, I did that this afternoon too. Had a few minutes. I just kind of looked to see if there were anything would explode or any cool, fun stuff that I could do in a couple of minutes. You know, so that's just the nature of my game. I don't know if that's more than probably what you ask about, but does that help give you a sense of what I mean about that? Not do GTD. Hey, stop, do what, I don't care. I don't care what any of you guys do. My job was to give you what the model was. Your job is to figure out how much of it you want to implement. It's up to you how clear you want your head to be. It's up to you. I just know how to get there. And if you got an easier way to get there than what GTD is, let me know. I'll teach it next week. And by the way, if you decide, I'm not going to do any of that, I'm just going to let the world show up as it shows up. I do that sometimes too. That's GTD as much as anything else. So I just decided the whole world will wait. I'll let God tell me what to do. You know, it'd be nice if he or she could give me the phone number when I'm at the phone, but so I still maintain a system, you know, in case it doesn't show up in my head. But I'm all into letting the, you know, being into let the bigger game and let the other things and the other forces and the other intuitive internal things run my life. I've done that for 50 years. So I just kind of came up with all this because it made it a lot easier to start to listen to the internal stuff. That's all. Yeah, so I didn't mean to get too serious or deep if I did, or too shallow if I did. Yeah. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Дэвид, во-первых, спасибо за систему. После прохождения курса я определил ее как четвертый по важности навык, который должен освоить человек. Первый — это хождение, потом говорение, потом чтение, а четвертое — GTD. По-вашему, какой пятый навык должен освоить человек в своей жизни по важности в этом мире? Спасибо.
Good question. In my interpretation, let go, let God. Trust in the spiritual realities of your life, because you are that. You're much bigger than who you think you are. So being able to trust that and get access to that voice and those directions and that expression, that's my purpose anyway. And from my experience, that would be the next level of game, if you will. But that's so unique and so personal, and also something quite most of the world is allergic to listening to and talking about. So I keep that very much under wraps unless somebody asks. But if you know what that game is, it's called, hey, I just let go and listen to the guidance I'm getting from the greater stuff that's going on. That's what I'm doing now. So that to me is the next level of game. is to know who you really are, how you're really connected to what all that is, and how to play in an optimal way, given what that's about.
Що привело тебе в 74 роки до України, і що тебе драйвить тут, що ти тут шукаєш?
Slava. He got me here. No, he did. I mean, our mission is, again, creating a world of there are no problems, only projects. And, we figured out, once my book was starting to be quite successful, I had the choice of whether I should just keep this just my own keynote speaking and just doing this personally, or whether we could or wanted to scale this methodology and this training around the world. And there was so much of the world that was knocking on our door. Once my book was published in 30 languages, the world just kept saying, oh my God, we need this. Can I be a consultant? Can we do this in Nairobi? Can we do this in Japan? Can we do this in Australia? And we had to say, God, shall we pay attention to that and try to fulfill whatever that need is? And because we know this methodology is so potentially life-changing for the good, none of us wanted to hold this back if there was enough need or interest in it. So then we decided our only strategies to do that, because I'm not a CEO. I hate managing people. I hate managing a company. I don't do that. It's not my thing. So we said the only way this would happen was with technology and partners. So when we didn't know how to find the right partners to be able to do this, to try to build a global licensing, franchising partnership, we didn't know how to do that. As I say, that was much bigger gum than I knew how to chew. We'd made a couple of attempts in the UK and in Brazil, and it just didn't work. There was too much legal issues, too much brand issues, too much quality control issues, and all kinds of stuff like that. And then somebody came to us. They happened to be the guys that built the Franklin Covey network around the world. David Covey, Stephen Covey's son, and his partner, Stephen Mardix, were co-COOs at the Franklin Covey Company. And they built the global network for the 7 Habits around the world. And they jumped ship. They left the Franklin Covey Company and created their own IP licensing company, looking for good intellectual property that wasn't global yet, that then they could use their skills to be able to then help that, make that happen. So that was about 6 years ago or 7 years ago. So we've been partnered with those folks, and they're the folks who found Slava, created those deals, the licensing and managing that, the legal stuff and that. We manage certifying, we've certified, and our trainers have certified our certified trainers to do this, to maintain the quality control. They're pretty rigorous training to do that, and brand and so forth, and quality control. So we finally found a partner that was able to help us do that. So that's what brought me to the Ukraine. I'd go anywhere. Anywhere anybody wants this, I can't help it. If you tried to stop me talking about this, that'd be hard. And two prices for my work are retail or free. If to do what I've been doing today would cost you 30,000 euros. That's my price. For me to give up a whole day of my time and give my full attention to a keynote speech or whatever. And it's free. Why? I care that this thing gets spread the way it's spread, and that we help support our licensees around the world to help them, because there are a lot of pirates for GTD, believe me. There are a lot of people that are pretending they're doing GTD around the world, so I need to show up and make sure everybody knows that this is our guy. I got his back, about this, because that's going to happen in places like this. So I'm willing to go anywhere where the world is interested in doing this. So that's why. So there's a long answer, but that's why I'm here. Yeah.
Thank you, Dad.
Yeah.
Вопрос не провокационный, я попробую задать его провокационно. Yeah. Thank you, David, for sharing the thoughts. So my question is, you told us a story about the wedding, and the question is, so do you apply this approach? So you apply this approach of mission, vision, purpose, vision, and everything to a wedding. So how often do you apply this approach in your life, and what is the balance between this wedding stuff and between like when you take the flow and you like don't think a lot about something that's happening?
I think I get it. I wouldn't have time to do this rigorous model on my 35 projects or your 62 projects. You probably don't need to. I do as much as I need to do to get anything off my mind. That's it. So sometimes I need to do more of this, sometimes I don't. You know, come on, if you need new tires on your car, you don't need to go, what's the purpose of new tires on my car? What's the wild success of wild, you know, not bad. I mean, that doesn't hurt to think about those things, but you probably don't need to spend a lot of time. You just need a next action to make sure you get friggin' tires on your car, right? So it's all relative to how important is that thing be exploded and dealt with in the most appropriate way. A lot of it may be how important is it. Now, a wedding is a pretty important thing personally as an event. So it was worth spending a little bit of time to back off and focus on that. But you'd have to decide yourself. Do you have a project list? If you looked at that project list, if I said which one of those projects, if that were expanded your thought process on it more completely so that you really trusted you had all the appropriate actions on it, would make the biggest difference to you. If you had an answer to that, then I'd say that's probably one you might want to try this out with, to do. I think you just need to have it as a tool in your back pocket to be able to pull out whenever you need it. See, if there's any of this process that you resist, you're going to run into it. If there's any of this process you need to do whenever you need to do it, you know, I can focus on the big thing, I can look at nothing, I can be cool, a whole lot of that. And by the way, now we're talking level 3 of GTD, where you're talking about the ability to be micro-focused, macro-focused, relax. Do that now. Well, stop doing that now. Let me focus on this big thing in this moment. Wait a minute. Let me now contract down to this level because that's where I need to be. Let me step back and say, oh, okay, that's where I need to go. That ability to manage in, out, up, down, wide, narrow, at any point in time with the capability to do that is the elegance of this craft called managing the flow of life's work. So these were just tools that showed up for me to be able to do that with as much elegance and as much ease as possible, to be able to be micro, macro, back, there, at any point in time. I don't know if that came from my martial arts training, but there was certainly a good analogy, and there's certainly a lot about that. Because a lot of the martial arts training that I did had a lot about meditative practices. There could be a spiritual component, but it's a very practical component. If 4 people attack you in a dark alley, you do not want 2,000 unprocessed emails hanging back there. You need to be clear, clear, yo, let's go have a glass of wine or do whatever you do. So that ability to be free and focused at any point in time. I'm a freedom guy. I think that's why I sort of uncovered all of this and why this is so important to me. My wife is too. So you know, I hate constraints. My personal style is being spontaneous, intuitive, trusting whatever I feel like doing right now, and being able to do that. So all of this stuff is simply about being able to maintain that and afford my lifestyle, right? Because you could do all that and just hang out, but at some point you're going to have to pay the rent, and maybe rent in a place you don't like. So I just figured out a way to make sure that I could do that, much like I did in the martial arts, where no matter what, boom, relax. Okay, that, boom, okay. So being able to focus when you need to, unfocus when you need to, be able to have essentially not control like control the weather, good luck, but control meaning I feel under control so that I know how to make a decision about stuff and not feel I'm distracted from being optimally available to follow my intuitive hunches at any point in time. So I think that's, to me, is the elegant outcome of whatever this is. And if you have a way to get there easier than this, God, be my guest. Just share it with me so I can teach it the next seminar. But I'm Mr. Lazy, and as best I could, it's hard to punch a hole in this. Anybody found anything wrong with this? Anything we've been sharing, or Slava's been sharing in any of these seminars? You can't. It's not a cult, folks. It's just good business. Why would you start a meeting without going, what are we trying to accomplish by what time? Why would you end a discussion in a meeting without going, so what did we just decide and what's the next action and who's got it? And we've seen whole cultures change with just those two questions built into their lexicon and their vocabulary. So a lot of this is about just what's the simplest way to make sure that you navigate this interestingly complex world that we're in. I don't know if I answered your question. I even forgot what your question was. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. I made it provocative for myself. So, anyway, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Спасибо, Дэвид. Ребята, давайте поблагодарим Дэвида аплодисментами.